many years since I did my internship in Srirampur now. I remember our women's OPD having long lines of women, especially women in their 50s, who would complain of having, hot air coming out of their ears. They would talk about this burning, of not being able to breathe properly, of having difficulty with taking a deep breath, having burning in their vagina and their head, and, sort of hot air coming out of their heads, sweating a lot at night. And it took me a while, even through my medical career, to realize that women were talking about the menopause. I'm Dr. Nilima Deshpande, and I'm a urogynecologist and sexual health consultant and a consultant in menopause care. Now, why is it that Indian women don't talk about the menopause? Why don't they get help for their menopausal symptoms? And I realize actually they do. It's the doctors who don't realize what they were complaining about was the menopause and these menopausal changes. A lot has changed since my years in Srirampur, where I did my internship. And now more and more doctors in India have realized that menopausal women are going to be the next exploding health problem in India. We're expecting over 130 million women to go through the menopause in the next 10 years. And that's a huge amount, huge number of women who are going to need healthcare. So in what ways does the menopause impact a woman's health? Well, number one is the physical symptoms. So the general feelings of tiredness, of aching bodies, of feeling like you're so exhausted, of getting, a rapid heartbeat, palpitations, the hot sweats at night, the feeling of, heat coming out of the top of your head, the vagina burning and stinging, all of these physical symptoms. The second lot is what we call the psychological symptoms. So the anxiety, depression, tearfulness, anger, maybe mood swings that happen, the tolerance to, like they say, the tolerance to stupidity goes down as you get older. But this may be a marker for the grumpy old woman you see in her 50s, is most likely to be the menopause. And then last but not the least is what I've talked about before, which is the genitourinary syndrome of the menopause. The vaginal dryness, burning, the urinary symptoms, the bowel symptoms, and the sexual symptoms associated with decreasing estrogen levels that affect the genitalia and the vagina. Now, if we think about how the menopause affects the quality of life, the woman's quality of life, it affects everything. You only have to imagine a woman who's at the prime of her career in a corporate, maybe in a corporate setup, or even running her own business. You do see women here, even in India, who have their own businesses. They're running board meetings. They may have to appear on a Zoom meeting. And without any warning, they burst out into a sweat. Suddenly, they have to have the AC on, the fan on. They can't think straight. They can't remember what they said last. And this can be a career maker or breaker. It can affect the woman's confidence very badly. What's important is that the sexual symptoms can go hand in hand with this. The physical symptoms, the lack of sleep, insomnia, can affect mood and concentration. Not only that, newer studies are now showing that the drop in estrogen over the years between the ages of 45 and 55 can affect other problems. For example, the change in periods, heart health in women, bone health in women, breast care, particularly the cognition, which means your ability to think on your feet. And the predictors, long-term predictors for the risk of Alzheimer's. All of these changes are happening between the ages of 45 and 55. So I want to make sure that women know that they can get help for these problems and feel proactive in getting this help. In India, women don't seek help. Women don't seek help because they are naturally stoic. They feel that they need to tolerate these symptoms until they get worse and worse and worse, or until they rather leave their jobs or hide themselves away at home or sacrifice other things before they'll go and get medical help, because they don't know if any kind of medical help is available for these symptoms. They also continue to look at and manage with many ineffective or herbal remedies that have not been known to be proven and which can have their own side effects. There is another special category of women, the younger women who have menopause, who go through the menopause before the age of 40. They may have had surgery that leads to menopause, or they may have had some particular condition that affects their ovaries, where the ovaries stop producing eggs or estrogen when they're much younger. These women spend a long time before they get help. It can be almost 7 to 8 years before they get help. And then the window of opportunity to help them recover from their problems is missed or is delayed to a great extent. Women who go through the menopause in a very young age can suffer with very severe symptoms of loss of confidence and depression because it affects their fertility. It affects their ability to be in a long, stable relationship because maybe they won't be able to have children of their own because their ovaries have failed. The decreasing levels of estrogen in their blood at a young age can affect their bones, so they're at much higher risk of developing osteoporosis and heart disease. As we know, estrogen is also important in maintaining cognitive function. So women who go through a premature menopause also have a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease as they get older. The other hidden issues as the menopause progresses can be those of incontinence. Now we've heard before how urinary incontinence, fecal incontinence, and prolapse of the pelvic organs gets ignored by women because they don't know where to get help. Often women are too ashamed, too embarrassed to talk about the fact that they may be leaking urine or feces, and to get help from a doctor who is correctly qualified in identifying these symptoms, sorting them out, and helping them to get the treatment that actually makes a difference in their quality of life. Many women who are close to the menopause have bleeding problems. They don't know when it is appropriate to go and get help. Now consider the fact that after the age of 40, abnormal bleeding patterns, whether you bleed too heavily, a sudden change in your bleeding patterns, whether you start bleeding in between periods or you bleed after sex, or you might have bleeding or spotting after you've stopped having your periods, maybe in the first or second year after your menopause. All of these warning symptoms need to be evaluated. The longer you leave them, the greater the risk you run of finding something abnormal going on inside the uterus. So my encouragement would be that if you're suffering with menopausal symptoms, if you're suffering with period problems, breast problems, you're suffering with hot flushes, problems that affect your ability to do your work, your quality of life, get help sooner rather than later. Leave aside the embarrassment or the shame of seeking help for incontinence issues and talk to your doctor about getting the right help for you. You don't always have to take all the medicines that your doctor writes. You don't always have to go for surgery. It has to be a dialogue. So find a doctor that you can talk to, that you're comfortable with, who understands the psychological impact and allows you to take the time that you need to make a decision for the treatment that works best for you. Some small tips that can help you on the way. Number 1, if you're obese or diabetic or hypertension, make sure that you're on a treatment plan that helps you get your weight down to healthy levels. It will reduce your hypertension, thereby protecting your brain and your heart. If you're diabetic, also make sure that you're following a diet plan that gets your weight under control and your sugar levels under control. That will affect your breast health, your bone health, as well as your other hormonal health. Reduce the amount of tea and coffee you drink, because this definitely affects the hot flushes that you're going to get at night. If you're drinking tea and coffee late at night, you're going to be awake most of the night and you're going to be grumpy and upset the next day. You can have cold showers at night before sleeping. Wear layers of clothing that you can remove easily and put on if you start to feel cold after you've had a sweat. Make sure your bedroom is cool and that your bedclothes are light and can be easily removed or taken on. Make sure you exercise regularly. Having a regular exercise routine makes all the difference in reducing your risk of developing problems after your menopause and also of managing the ups and downs of your hormone levels as you go through the menopause. When you go to your doctor, make sure that you have the opportunity to discuss medical treatment, which includes menopausal hormone therapy, vaginal estrogen, as well as other medicines that might be able to help you with your psychological problems and improving your quality of life. I hope you found these tips useful, and I hope that you will make all the effort you can to make your menopause a smooth transition and have a great quality of life as you go through it. Bye.